I was still gripping the thin curtain in my grandmother's hospice room when my mother's voice snapped through my phone, sharp and fake, like a bad excuse. She didn't even believe herself. "It's just a piano," she said. "Stop being so dramatic." Behind me, the machines kept up their quiet rhythm, softly marking the final breaths of the only person who had ever truly chosen me without hesitation. Grandma lay there looking fragile as paper, her hands resting on the quilt like she'd paused in the middle of a song she never got to finish. They had sold her Hamilton Grand, the one she promised me when I was 9. The one she said would be my future back when everyone else acted like I wasn't even worth the space I took up. $95,000. That's what my parents turned her memory into. That money bought my sister a brand new red luxury car, sitting in their driveway like a trophy, like a flag planted over everything I'd ever hoped for. I leaned in close to Grandma and told her everything. Every ugly detail. Every lie. She didn't cry. She didn't get angry. Instead, she reached slowly for her phone, took one calm, steady breath, and made a single call. When she was done, she looked at me and said, "It's time for them to meet my attorney." And right then, for the first time in my life, I understood exactly what revenge sounded like. I still remember the day she gave me that piano. Not officially. Nothing written down. It was emotional, not legal. I was 10 years old, sitting beside her while she played, my legs swinging in the air. In the kitchen, my parents were arguing about money again, about wasted effort, about that boy and his pointless dreams. Grandma stopped playing mid-song and took my hands in hers. "This piano is yours," she told me. "One day." Then she smiled and said, "You're the only one who really hears it." I believed her with everything I had. I built my whole life around that promise. Music school. Long nights. Broken keys. Fingers split open and bleeding. I thought devotion earned protection. I thought blood meant loyalty. I couldn't have been more wrong. Betrayal never hits all at once. It creeps in quietly. First, my parents stopped talking about the piano. They stopped asking about my recitals. They stopped visiting Grandma as much. Then the excuses started rolling in. We moved it to clean the room. It needed restoration. The house just felt crowded. One lie stacked neatly on top of another. Then one night, I drove past their place and saw the truth sitting right there in the driveway. A shiny, expensive car that nobody needed. My sister was laughing behind the wheel while my parents filmed her like proud investors celebrating a payoff. The next morning, I checked the piano registry. It was gone. Sold 2 weeks earlier to a private collector in Ravenport. Paid in full. The money went straight into my father's account. I didn't yell. I didn't confront them. I made a list instead. Who bought it? How the payment moved. Which attorney handled the sale. Where every dollar landed. And then I waited because timing is what separates blind anger from real justice. Grandma took care of the rest. From her hospice bed, she rewrote her will. Not out of emotion, but out of clarity. She transferred everything she had left, property, savings, her antique collection, into a trust my parents could never touch. Only me. The piano was listed specifically. And she left instructions for a lawsuit to be filed the day she passed, citing breach of inheritance and unlawful sale of protected property. They were ordered to return every cent. All of it. With penalties. That red car was seized and sold to cover damages. They didn't just lose the piano. They lost their house. Their credit. Their reputation. My father's name vanished from every business contract he'd ever been part of because nobody trusts a man who steals from his dying mother. The final confrontation happened right there in that same driveway, now empty. My parents stood across from me, looking older than they had just a month earlier. My mother's voice shook when she said, "You destroyed this family." I stepped forward, calm and steady. "You sold the only thing she ever gave me," I said. "I just made sure you felt the price of that choice." There was no yelling, no drama, just the truth. And after that, they had nothing left to say. I still don't have the piano. Not yet. The collector is fighting the claim. But I know where it is. I know how long it takes for patience to turn into inevitability. Grandma taught me that every note has a payoff. You just have to wait for it to land. And when it finally does, it'll be mine again, just like she promised.